Hello, welcome to my first redstone tutorial video. Today we're going to be going over multiplayer shopping, made specifically for multiplayer servers. So you need something like this in case you wanted to sell expensive items, but you don't want to just stick them in a chest and hope that people don't steal them in return for diamonds. This is a fully automatic system designed for selling expensive items, like blocks of netherite, for more than 1 diamond apiece. For other types, such as one-to-one exchange or 1 diamond for multiple items, I have more videos coming in the future. So, to start off, this is a good shop if you want to sell expensive items, like possibly enchanted armor from End City raiding, enchanted books from villager trading, or maybe even beacon kits in a box like this. Your stock just goes into this dropper right here, and will be dispensed out into this barrel once the customer pays for it. So let's start off by going over how this works. It's pretty much just a bunch of logic circuitry around a normal item filter. This is the item filter in the center here. You can see that repeater feeds into that redstone torch. Basically, this makes sure that only diamonds will be taken out of this barrel. The extra circuit on the side here is to make sure that it slows down the items coming in, so that way it will trigger this counter reliably every single time. The counter just keeps track of how many diamonds the customer has been put into the barrel. Unfortunately, there really isn't a small and easy way of giving change back, so if they only put in 4 diamonds and it was supposed to be 16, they can't really get that back. But once 16 items are put in, all of the items out of this dropper will be moved over into this hopper. What this does is it turns off of this comparator, which then locks the item filter so no more items can enter the system while it's being reset and dispensing stock. At the same time unpowers this sticky piston, which we'll get back to later. So once all the items are out of this dropper and into this hopper, which faces back into the dropper, this comparator will be on at the same instant that one's off. So when this one's on, it will extend this normal piston and retract the sticky piston, which moves the redstone block over to this spot. This does 2 things. First of all, it triggers this sticky piston on top, just using some observers, which permanently locks the item hopper up here by moving the composter over and powering the block next to it. This makes sure that nothing enters the system. It's like a double check. Secondly, when this block moves over, it unpowers this redstone dust, which will then unpower the hopper, letting items flow out of the hopper back into the dropper. Now once the system's reset and back into its default state, this piston will unpower, pulling the composter back, and also this piston will extend, pushing the block back into place and relocking the hopper. So then it'll continue to take more until all the diamonds have been taken out of this barrel. Now there are a couple extra features to this system. One is the stock keeping. So when this dropper is empty, this comparator will turn off and turn on this light using the redstone torch, which also locks the item hopper, making sure that customers can't put in diamonds to the system if it's out of stock. So let's get on to the tutorial. Okay, so to get started, you're going to need to begin by collecting all the resources that are in this chest right here. This can be any type of solid block as long as it can be powered, and this can be any type of slab, but it does have to be a slab. The note block is optional. It's just to let the user who is buying what you have in this dropper know that they have paid and it dispensed one out. Also, the composter and the pumpkin pie can be swapped out with a cauldron and a water bucket, because they both perform pretty much the same function over here on the back of the circuit. So to start, you need to dig out a 6 long by 3 wide by 6 deep area, and this will slot in perfectly into that area. Now you start by building up 5 from the bottom and placing a barrel in. This is the payment chest where they'll put in payment. Now this can also be a shulker box that opens out this way, but It just has to be something that they can't reach into the hopper underneath and pick out and change your filter items. Now to set up the item filter, we're going to place a barrel right there with the two hoppers facing this way. And then this is just a standard item filter. Built like this with a torch, repeater on one tick, 2 redstone dust, and then a repeater facing there. Now you need to set this up so that way it is full of some type of item with 18 items in that slot right there. Then grab whatever item you're going to be paying with, so in this case diamonds, and take and put 2 into that slot. You'll see it'll trigger once and one item will get pulled out into this hopper. So now it'll pull diamonds out of this barrel, down through, and into this barrel, and this is where all of your final payment will end up. So now we need to slow down the items so that way it can trigger this dust once at a time and you'll see it flashing. So what we're going to do is place a block here, here, and a slab here, and this has to be a slab with a dust and a repeater on 3 ticks. So now when we put diamonds in, you'll see it slows this clock down and makes sure that it flashes every single time. And the reason that's important is that way it can trigger our counter every single time, which is this right here, a dropper facing outwards with a hopper back into it. So now this is where you can put how many diamonds you want each item to be sold for. So in this case we'll just do 8 items. So however many items you put in this dropper will be how many diamonds it takes to dispense one item out. So next, we need to put a comparator facing out of this dropper with a repeater right here on 3 ticks into a block that goes up into a torch. So this will lock it for a moment whenever your counter runs out of items and will stop more diamonds from coming in. Also down here below, you need to put a dust with a repeater on 1 tick. Now this can also be where you put your note block right here if you want it to ding. Now coming back around to this side, take a comparator output out of that hopper and put that into a normal piston. Come over to this part, in front of the repeater place a normal block with a sticky piston coming out of it and a normal piston below it. Now finally over here, take a block of redstone and place it here with an observer facing out from underneath it and an observer facing this way coming out of that observer. So this will switch the hopper, this will unlock and lock this item hopper here depending on where that redstone block is. So then you take 2 dust coming out of the redstone block and then place your target block underneath here to lock this hopper and prevent it from sending items back into the dropper before it's time. Now finally, on this side, we need to add in the part that locks this top item filter whenever it is resetting itself. So on top of this piston, place 2 observers facing upward with a sticky piston. Then grab a composter or a cauldron, it doesn't matter which one, and place it here. Then either grab just something to fill it with. It could be pie, anything that can be composted. Place at least 1 level in. It doesn't have to be at 1, but that's just the least expensive way to do it. Next you place a block here with a comparator into another block. So when this moves forward, it'll stop items from coming through. Then last, you need to place a dropper here against this torch facing upward into your barrel that the items will come out in right here. This can also be a shulker box facing upwards if you want it to. Then place a hopper here to make sure that the items will go into this barrel. And let's say we're selling target blocks, so we'll just fill that up there. Now, if this doesn't have items in it, we need it to make sure it locks this barrel out so no items will come in and it can't take somebody's diamonds if there's nothing to buy. So you can place a comparator coming out of it here, and that goes into a block with the redstone torch right here, and that'll turn off because there's items in it right now, and this should all be working. So if we take out diamonds and put 3 in, like that, you'll see they've ended up in this barrel, and 3 of the items are now in this hopper. If we take 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll see it reset itself like this, and it'll dispense 1 item into this barrel. So I do have a few last minute corrections before we wrap up the video. First of all, you gotta place in this redstone lamp right here. It is technically optional, but it is nice to give the customer a little bit of feedback on what's going on behind the scenes, and it's also just easier to look at the lamp to see if you still have stock. Second, underneath this comparator, you're going to replace that block with a slab here, and that just makes it a little bit easier to get into the payment barrel under here instead of having to reach through the small gap right here. And last but not least, definitely not least, this repeater here needs to be on 2 ticks. In the tutorial I have it on 3, but it needs to be on 2, otherwise the system won't lock in time and it'll pull 1 extra diamond through and break a little bit. Well, that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more redstone videos and tutorials.